Here, this is the reel-to-reel wake-up movie review. And I'm here with Dean Kevin. I'm Dean Val. And today's movie is Gattaca with Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman. And let me give you a rundown here. Just a basic plot scenario of Gattaca, which came out in 1997. In the not too distant future, eugenics is common. A genetic registry database uses biometrics to classify those so created as valids, while those conceived naturally and more susceptible to genetic disorders are known as invalids. Genetic discrimination is illegal, but in practice, genotype profiling is used to identify valids to qualify for professional employment, while invalids are relegated to menial jobs. Vincent Freeman, who is played by Ethan Hawke, was conceived naturally, and his genetic profile indicates a highly probability of several disorders and an estimated lifespan of 30.2 years. His parents, regretting their decision, used genetic selection in conceiving their second child, Anton Jr. Growing up, the two brothers often play a game of chicken by swimming out to sea as far as possible, with the first one returning to shore considered the loser. And Vincent always loses. Vincent dreams of a career in space travel, but is always reminded of his genetic inferiority. One day, Vincent challenges Anton to a game of chicken and beats him. Anton starts to drown and is saved by Vincent shortly after Vincent leaves home. Years later, Vincent works as an invalid cleaning office spaces, including that of a spaceflight conglomerate, Gattaca Aerospace Corporation. He gets a chance to pose as a valid by using donated hair, skin, blood, and urine samples from former swimming star Jerome Eugene Morrow, who was paralyzed after being hit by a car. With Jerome's genetic makeup, Vincent gains employment at Gattaca and is assigned as navigator for an upcoming mission to Saturn's moon Titan. To conceal his identity, Vincent must meticulously groom and scrub down daily to remove his own genetic material, pass daily DNA scanning and urine tests using Jerome's samples, and hide his heart defect. When a Gattaca administrator is murdered a week before a possible launch, the police find one of Vincent's own eyelashes near the crime scene, but can only identify it from an unregistered invalid, and thus launch an investigation to find who owns the eyelash. During this, Vincent becomes close to co-worker Irene Cassini, played by Uma Thurman, and falls in love with her. Though a valid, Irene has a higher risk of heart failure that will bar her from any deep space mission. Vincent also learns that Jerome's paralysis is self-inflicted. After placing silver in Olympics, Jerome threw himself in front of a car. Jerome maintains that he was designed to be the best, yet somehow wasn't, and is suffering because of this. Vincent repeatedly evades the grasp of the investigation. Finally, it is revealed that Gattaca's mission director, Joseph, killed the administrator because he threatened to cancel the mission. Vincent learns that the detective who closed the case was his brother Anton, who consequently has discovered Vincent's presence. The brothers meet, and Anton warns Vincent about his illegal actions, but Vincent asserts that he has gotten to his position on his own merits. Anton challenges Vincent to a final game of chicken. As the two swim out at night, Vincent's stamina surprises Anton. So Vincent reveals that he won by not saving energy for the swim back. Anton turns back and begins to drown, but Vincent rescues him and swims them both back to shore. On the day of the launch, Jerome reveals that he has stored enough DNA samples for Vincent to last 2 lifetimes upon his return, and gives him an envelope to open once in flight. After saying goodbye to Irene, Vincent prepares to board, but discovers there is a final genetic test, and he currently lacks any of Jerome's samples. He is surprised when Dr. Lamar, who oversees the background checks, reveals that he knows Vincent has been posing as a valid. Lamar admits that his son looks up to Vincent and wonders whether his son, genetically selected but not all that they promised, could exceed his potential just as Vincent has. The doctor changes the test results, allowing Vincent to pass. As the rocket launches, Jerome dons his swimming medal and emulates himself in his home's incinerator. Vincent opens the note from Jerome to find only a lock of Jerome's hair. As the movie ends, Vincent muses that for someone who has never meant for this world, I must confess, I'm suddenly having a hard time leaving it. Of course, they say every atom in our bodies was once a part of a star. Maybe I'm not leaving, maybe I'm going home. So that was the literal synopsis here. I'm kind of taken by the scene, the chicken race that they had, the brothers Anton and Vincent swimming in the ocean, going as far as they could before one of them gave up and went back to shore, and he's the loser. Well, that's kind of like, I like that because that's like what we're doing here with the new presentation, and we're kind of going for broke. You know, we're not saving any energy to go back anywhere. It's all or nothing kind of, and it's kind of an inspiring kind of scenario here where he's telling his brother Anton, or Jerome, that that's the way he did it, by not saving any energy to go back shore. He just went for broke, and that's kind of what we have to do here. We have to just keep going and give it all you got. So in a way, this is an inspiring film, as well as all the subliminals. But so I'll give it to you, Kevin. What did you see?
In the movie overall, we see a far more controlled, surveilled and regulated world than we do today, although a world we are swiftly moving into. The planet Earth is 100% control and human farming, and all the systems of it are designed toward this end, as a means of suppression and control of a human race that have been enslaved by the reptilians from the first moment the reptilians created the human species. As everything is awareness, and awareness always seeks to become more aware of the awareness that it is, this is a natural and real inclination with all species and individuals throughout the simulators. The real awareness that animates them, always having the urge to become more aware through the body vehicles it inhabits, as is the purpose of the simulators, and as is the real intent and purpose of real awareness, to ultimately recognize the isness that it is. With individuals, the reptilians, choosing to control the simulators, as is their inclination, their thrill, their sensation, as they are more bored than anybody in the restriction that the simulators present as, they will realize the growing awareness with those that they control, and of course, as awareness increases, the loss of control is to be expected. The controllers then must implement increasing measures and create further expressions of control through their systems that present as beneficial on the surface, because with everything creationally based, to become an actuality, agreement is required. The decision to cause and effect make it so. The controllers must have those they control agree with their own enslavement, and agree with the increasing levels of control also, for it to be a collectively experienced creational reality. So they must market it as though it is beneficial to claim the agreement required. And as agreement is secured to increasing control, this control expresses as more restriction and the enforcing of stringent routine, as everyone is regulated into deciding and agreeing ever increasingly in the same way. With these decisions and agreements in keeping with the controller's design, to become more aware requires the cause and effect generating of that which we have never experienced before, that we can see more, be more, and we become more aware then as a consequence. If the human race is locked into more and more agreement to restricting routine and control, the opposite is so, a retraction of awareness, a constriction of consciousness, that is then reflected in the overall state of the simulator. As the consciousness overall affects the simulator, and continued restriction results in a deterioration and a simulator demise. As agreement is required that the controllers have the situations they desire come into a creational actuality, they will trawl these agreements by all means possible. Where we place our attention, our focus, also is decision agreement to the ideas that have claimed it, until we get to a point where we are conscious of all ideas we are presented with, and all the ideas we are generating, thoughts and emotions, we will be automatically agreeing and deciding on them, which will project into experience, as per the simulator's design. So we can get to a stage where we regard everything from the indifference of the real awareness, and we then can consciously decide as to what we agree with or not. But until we reach that point, we are bombarded with ideas that are being fed to the created consciousness, or the thoughts and emotions of our own that we are constantly creating, and which then generate the corresponding effects. This is where the subliminal programming comes in, through the movies and media the controllers provide, as they do nothing that doesn't benefit and maintain their controlling agendas. That which we overwhelmingly see through the movies, the scenes and themes, tend to be those they want as creational reality, and this is what is referred to as predictive programming. Movies such as Gattaca, with its dystopian and far more controlling themes, will subliminally program all who watch them, who are not consciously aware of the ideas and concepts that are being viewed, and are not remaining in indifference to them, and as such the ideas will nestle in and embed themselves into the consciousness and be tantamount to agreement. And the mechanics of the consciousness, the agreements to ideas we have programmed it with, will be effected into a simulated creational cause and effect experience. The controllers know this, and so the movies, through the televisions, are primary programming tools to subliminally secure agreement that will bring the themes watched by billions through the movies into a projected creational reality.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I'm surprised how much attention they paid to the detail here in the movie about the control they have over these people, these elites. And you never really see who's in control here. You're just seeing, well, the administrator and such, but you know, there's a hierarchy here. There's people behind the scenes that are pulling the strings here, and the people, the elites themselves, I mean, they didn't seem particularly interested in you know, securing the office. They're just doing their work, but there's somebody behind the scenes here. And it's interesting that they know that their people are going to assume the identities and the DNA of others. I mean, they already see that. So somewhere it was said that it's called borrowed ladder, where like what Vincent did, there's people going to be trying to assume the identity through the DNA of others to get into the position here of elites, using the urine, the blood, and the skin samples. And so they were ready for it. That's why they're always testing. They're always daily testing. Like, why do they have to do this daily? I mean, once you're in, but they're so scared to lose control that they're doing this, monitoring people so much. And it's like you say, genetic profiling is the new discrimination here in the future. Race, creed, sex used to be the thing, but now potentially it's going to be genetic profiling. Like what's your, you know, taking DNA, your DNA status would be the discriminatory process of how you stand in society. And if you don't go that route, well, then you're the bottom level, like Ernest Borgnine here. He's the what's his name? He's the head of the janitorial crew here, and basically that kind of symbolizes that they're trash. You know, they're secondary citizens. If you're not part of the elites, who have been genetically modified, then you're basically trash. And that's kind of at the end too, where Jerome incinerates himself, and he commits suicide in where they put the trash in the incinerator. So he's like his, you know, he's trash. Since he came in second in the swimming competition, he's supposed to be the lead, but what happened? So there's flaws in their system. So they see that. So whether someone's going to kind of sneak in, or there's other flaws like Uma Thurman, Irene, she had a heart condition. She's supposed to be up there, you know, with the elites, but she had some flaws. So there's flaws in the system. There always will be. And that's how it's neat to see Vincent expose those flaws and get through them. It's always neat to, have the hero here and kind of beat the system. Those kind of movies are always kind of neat. You want to go on your second section there?
Yeah, the movie had a lot of parallels with Aldous Huxley's Brave New World as well. They recently re-released that as a series, and not so long ago. I think they're going to do further consequent series that spin off from it. But I think the original movie came out in about 1930s. I think I don't think the book was written in the 30s. I think the movie came out in the 50s. It's very similar. It basically portrays a very much controlled Orwellian world where everybody is genetically created to fulfill certain roles and positions, and they literally have a worker class, and they have various tiers of it, and it's not so much you are afforded your positions based on your own merits. It's more so your created vehicle is designed for the specific roles that they require. And so very long similar lines. And they're all heavily medicated there as well. So as I remember. And I think in the series as well, I don't remember the movie, but in the series, there were the individuals who weren't part of this Brave New World setup, and they were almost existing on the borderlands of society in the sort of what remains of the ruins of and they were considered, I can't remember, they were considered undesirables or something, or a similar sort of term. And yet one of the individuals would be introduced into this sort of very medicated and controlled society, and completely revolutionize it, and get everybody to aware their situation, and decide differently as to what they have been assigned as what their life will be. So
yeah, look at Vincent, conceived out of faith. They use that term. Faith, what does that mean? Well, faith that he's going to be either, a good or a perfect human being or not. Where we have science here developing perfect people, perfect specimens, human specimens. But if you don't, you're just relying on luck or faith to see whether he's going to turn out. But see what their ultimate aim is, not anything about awareness. It's about control. So yeah, the faith is like whether they're gonna have a chance to control him or not. It's their faith in terms of that. But if they do the genetically modified human, I mean, there's no faith involved. They do control the people, through their system. So that's just very simple, their aim. They just want to maintain their control, and they're fearful that if they don't, they lose control. It's just kind of funny, their attitude, the controllers. They don't have to do this, but that's their game, and they're showing it in these movies. And if you really go, some people I see online, you can go through any of these movies and just pick it apart. The names they use, which I'll go over later, the scenes, the symbolism, allegories, all these things. Every little piece of the movie you can pick apart and see there's something behind it. There's always something behind it. Even Dwayne and I were watching some of the old commercials of the 1940s, cigarette commercials. You get an overview, kind of funny how the media has progressed. They're so well, here in the case of the cigarette commercials, how 8 out of 10 doctors recommend Camel cigarettes. And you see the doctor, gynecologists, radiologists, surgeons, 8 out of 10 doctors recommend Camel. And the guy's lighting up, in his office as the patient's coming in. It's just kind of funny. But it's just funny how, and now the movies have got so sophisticated that they just, every little piece of the movie is this, could be, you know, subliminal or a purposefully included part of the movie where there's nothing really left to chance. It's like these people in the, these people in the office, in the aerospace office. I mean, the movies are like that too these days. Every little thing you think, well, it's just like they just picked this scene, but no, there's usually something in the background, or you know, the water scenes here in the beginning of the movie. He's taking a shower, scrubbing himself, and then where he fell in love with the love scene with Irene that was next to an ocean, the water thing, and the playing chicken, you know, in the ocean, swimming. You know, could water sometimes is symbolizes transitions or transformations, kind of. So he was transformed when he beat his brother finally. That was like the moment where he tweaked him, where he was able to like, oh, maybe I can amount to something, you know, and go beyond what I'm supposed to, you know, which is like die at 30 years old and have a heart condition and stuff. So those little moments like that, they put those in too, that which is, you know, they always put in good with the bad, like a pinch of good. Most of it's subliminal bad, but there's always a pinch of good to keep the story going and to keep it appealing for the audience. Yeah. Yeah, you can go ahead if you want. The second part there.
There was an interesting part in the movie where it is revealed how it can be determined as to everything that will transpire in an individual's life, their time of death, and means by which that will take place, and even the personality traits, proclivities, and indulgences an individual will lean toward, all from information obtained in a drop of blood, the DNA, extracted from a baby at birth. Our physical vehicle, as it is now, is the culmination of its created consciousness. Everything we have decided, agreed with, the attachments and ideas that are the created consciousness construction, affects what we are in any given moment in creation, in regards to circumstances, situations, our position and planet we are on, and the body forms as a product of the environment of the position in creation we are in, a position and environment that is a consequence of what we have decided as our created consciousness. Our physical vehicles and all aspects of it, the 5 bodies that make it up, must contain then everything, all the ideas that the overall created self is in this moment, as everything is, and everything is within every nowness moment of this isness. This must include creation also. It's just how the personal vehicles are designed that allows that instead of having this is everything view, we see through the personal self sequences of cause to effect experiences of motion and time and space, as we need the comparison to recognize this isness reality. Seems then the technology in the movie was such that it could read everything of the created consciousness that would allow for it to determine the inclinations, desires, motivations, and circumstances of each individual. For, of course, most, if not all, of our personal self drives, thrills, and decisions we chase lifetime after lifetime. We derive a comfort from the routines of what we always chase, and as we continue chasing that which we always have, we project these same ideas as realities into future lifetimes also. We design the created consciousness in generally very routined and patterned ways. The decided consciousness is then already established as we enter a new body form. The projected cause to effect of the routines of it are rather already mapped out, unless we decide to change our agreements and decisions. So it's very possible technology could simply read the programmed decisions and agreements of the created consciousness that are already present from the moment of our birth. As the body vehicles, and indeed the simulators, are holographic, as with the nature of a hologram, every part of it contains the information of the whole. This would make sense from an isness everything view, for if everything is, this must include every part of everything that we see in the cause and effect sequencing of apparent differentiation and segregation from the personal self-view. The tiniest created measurable atom must contain everything of the simulation within it, and so one drop of blood will then be more than sufficient to determine the entirety of the created consciousness of the personal self, as the drop of blood, like the entirety of the body vehicle, is the culmination of the created consciousness. But how would technology determine the nature of the created consciousness? Well, creation is very much designed as a simulated computer game. It comprises then of measurable data or frequencies. Everything of it, every idea, must have a unique frequency therefore. Technology could be designed that it could comprehensively map all the frequencies of all the ideas that make up the created consciousness that is contained within the single drop of blood. The technology then would be reading the created consciousness like it would the data from a pre-programmed computer, a computer designed to carry out its programming as per the way it has been designed. And we see in the movie that yes, the created consciousness that we have constructed has mapped out our current lifetime, all the faults in our body vehicles, the traits, personality, likes and dislikes already programmed in, and have effected a projected experience. But at any moment, individuals can decide differently, and as such, the effects must change, and so nothing is set in stone. And Vincent, the main character, was not content to just settle for the routines of his self-decided created consciousness. He would decide something different, and all that transpired in the movie, leading to the point where he was heading to Titan, would not have been so, but for his decision to create something else. We see his display of risk-taking, of stepping into the unknown, of what he doesn't know, that which is at odds with how his created consciousness was decided up until that point, and had affected him into similar circumstances, as it may have undoubtedly done many lifetimes before. And through deciding beyond what is known, beyond the comfort zones of familiarity of experience through the personal self, we effect different experiences. We see and be more, and become more aware consequently. The part in the movie where he would swim far beyond what the comfort zone of his created consciousness should have allowed if he resigned himself to it, the demonstration very apparent as the swimming out into the unknown of the great ocean of life, and to give in would be very much to sink into the psych realms of creation, and resign oneself to the personal self-consciousness of what the personal self knows, and we are then resigned to its current self-conviction of limitation. And toward the end of the movie, Vincent would proclaim that the reason he was successful with the swimming was that he never saved anything for the journey back, rather that he was all in, determined and intended to go into the unknown, to not look back and return to what he has always known. And although we do need something to relate to, the personal self and creation, as we become more aware, there comes that jumping off point, the point where we must throw all caution to the wind, and commit fully to the process, as eventually to become self-sufficient and standing real in recognition of the beings we are in the real universes, must demand that at a certain stage we do need to let the personal self, creation, and all we have known go.
Yeah, welcome, Jeremy. Yeah, as you know, we're discussing Gattaca here, and yeah, Kevin, it's like it's predictive. The AI can kind of predict through the drop of a blood, basically your whole all your bodies. Sophisticated AI can predict and see all your physical, astral, your memories, your mental body, some of your subconscious. So it can kind of read that and predict it, with like the thought crime idea where they know. But the game changer is your creativity and your awareness. If you can, with your awareness, you can go beyond your creative self and your created potential self, which the AI can read, but it can't really read the awareness, because it's beyond that, beyond creation. If you want to, if you take it to its fuller extent, awareness is beyond creation. So that's one thing they can't control, and that again is what Vincent had his role. He had his destiny. Die at 30, maybe a heart attack. His vision was poor. This and that, and they could read that through the testing, but what they can't read is our awareness, and the potential there with our creativity and insight and all that right now is unavailable to the AI, but it's trying. The AI is trying to wake up too, and to see what that's about. But it's really beyond that, because it's beyond creation, and then eventually the awareness. Our awareness is beyond creation. It's just an isness. So that's how people can become more, and what they're predestined to. And with predictive programming here, with the TV and the movies, they're installing these predictions within us in our five bodies. They're trying to insert these things so they can more so even control us. It's our own creativity, and look how their imagination and creativity is being hijacked, so that everything now, even in their mental body and their imagery, is being controlled. And that way, the whole thing the whole of creation is being controlled more by the ones who want to do harm.
So with Gattaca, what's funny is I when I was watching the movie, I had realized that I had seen it before, so it was like a cool little like refresher for it. But whatchamacallit, it was interesting to see the risk-taking qualities, because it's like that he was really, really determined that what he wanted, and he had that focus for it. So that became his life. Realist. I mean, in the way that it was presented, that became him. So I kind of looked at that, like I kind of wanted to see the is in that when you have this attention and this focus for this real journey, it becomes you, and then it becomes so from that intent and that real focus.
And look at all that he had to go through to prove it to himself, basically, and to others. Obviously, he had to get through the scanning and all the testing and everything, but prove it to himself too. He never really wavered. He was always on target, basically, and that's what you got to do. You have to focus so much that you get beyond yourself, and like again, like Kevin mentioned, the swimming, the playing the chicken, and you can't save anything for. You just have to go beyond what you think you even have. Everything, 100%. I just wanted to get into just as a little thing here with the names. It's Ethan Hawke played Vincent Freeman. So Vincent, Latin for like conqueror. Victor, Vincent, conqueror. Freeman, obviously he's a free man. He's not bowing down to the system. So they chose that name. There's Jude Law played Jerome Eugene Morrow. Jerome, again, like Jerome genome. Eugene, again, the gene aspect. Morrow, tomorrow. He's like the future man. So it's just, and then there's a staircase that, sorry for the rooster back there, but a staircase that's the double helix in the DNA strand, and the staircase that where Jerome lived. I mean, it's all these little things in the movies. It's all around. It's just kind of fun sometimes to pick them out and see how symbolically they apply to the subliminals, basically, that they're trying to infect with us. And yes, the movie looked like, it's about inspiration, but it's also implanting this idea of how the future is going to be, where a lot of these movies are. It's going to be very controlled, and science is going to be dominant here with the genetically modified organisms, including man, plants, anything that's an organism. They're going to genetically modify it. So the movies are a great example here. It's good that we're going over this, because it really shows, they're showing us what they're doing, what they're planning. Okay, Kevin, number 3.
We do see in the movie how the emphasis as it generally is with the controlling systems, is that of the drive for success. To be successful, according to the controlled social consciousness idea of what that entails. As it currently stands, success equates to having lots of money, a big house, to be better than everybody else, whereas real success must surely be the assumption of positions of survival throughout creation, independent of the necessity to agree with the ideas and systems of others, to allow a survival that is really more a dependence, and an overall agreement that is destroying the all-natural environment that supports all of us. And so the systems, as they are in this movie, always instill in everyone the want to chase happiness, to chase success, prestige and status, to the extent that the chasing of these ideas, or any idea for that matter, is a cause and effect guarantee of maintaining a position in restricting creation. As the chase for success is so very limitless, and yet to stand in the everything reality of the isness, we would have everything we ever could want or need. As a reality that is everything suggests a positioning where there can be nothing imaginable that can be added to it. Also in the movie, we see that not only has everyone inserted themselves into the creational positions they find themselves in through the decisions they have made, but that these positions are maintained as the social consciousness is provided terminology and ideas that reinforce and maintain their circumstances. As an example, those not genetically gifted are rather resigned to the worker class, as it were. The reason they find themselves in such positions in life is through the limitation of self-consideration they have placed upon themselves and programmed their consciousness with, and having found themselves in their own decided effects, they are given such labels as invalid, and as they seemingly overall agree and take on this idea, so it reinforces the ideas of self-consideration they already have agreed to, and very likely perpetuate and project similar limited positions into future circumstances and lifetimes as a result. Ultimately, the controllers would want the controlled to take on these ideas of lack of self-worth, that would then project them into overall experiences that reflect these agreed upon ideas, as they ideally want the vast majority to be in situations of extreme limitation. We see this in the world today, as people are slowly accepting the idea that they are responsible for the climate change through carbon emissions, as an example, a distortion of what's actually taking place, and we see a great guilt and shame being agreed upon by increasing numbers of people the world over, and an almost unconscious and conscious acceptance of being cold, that it might save the planet. The controllers mould everyone's created collective reality through not just agreements to the ideas they wish actualized, as in via the subliminal dystopian movie themes, but such scenarios more likely to be so if additionally agreements to the ideas of lack of self-worth can also be embraced. If you can get people to agree that they are worthless slaves that are a blight on the earth, then the effect experiences will reflect this decided upon consideration, as the people agree that they must then be controlled, regulated, and even culled for the good of the planet.
Oh,
Will
just
the
kidding.
real Jeremy stand up, please? Remember that show, Tell the Truth, and people would kind of fake it, and then you never knew, and then the real one stood up. Yeah. I don't know if you ever saw the show. I think it was To Tell the Truth. They had three people claiming to be the Jeremy or whoever. Yeah. And the panel would have to ask some questions to see, if they could find out who the real one was. In the end, they kind of look at each other, the three panelists, and then finally the real one would stand up. Yeah. No, but yeah, it's like the elites have to use science to prove things or to rationalize things, where awareness, because they don't have the awareness. So they have to do these mechanical things, science, to try to rationalize, to prove things, to like control people. Whereas that's kind of a dumbed down version of awareness, because awareness just is, it's something more pure and wonderful, where science is just, I was telling Kevin, we were watching these old cigarette commercials last night from the 40s, where doctors recommend Camel, 8 out of 10 doctors recommend Camel cigarettes over Chesterfield or Lark or whatever. But, and they had these statistics. The guy was like reading a paper here, research shows that, this less tar and nicotine, more menthol and more refreshing, and supposedly all these statistics. Well, yeah, statistics don't lie, but the person who created the statistics does lie. But so all these scientific things that we have, including what we're talking about with the movie, the genetic profiling and identification, I mean, it's just so kind of a dumbed down version of what could be. And they're using this, and people are buying into it, thinking like the science is a new religion or a new God. And that, well, science says this, but science is like, again, it's maybe true, but the people who create it and put it out there are not, their intent is not true, and it's not really anything of a benefit. It's just to control people. So the key is awareness, and that's what Vincent, there's moments in the movie, like I mentioned before, where he beat his brother in the swimming contest. There's a tweak of awareness there where he said, oh, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can go further than what I have been programmed or think I've been programmed to do, what they tell me. So the key is awareness. Become more aware.
I also wanted to comment too, intent is very, very important. I was watching, to kind of give a little example, I was watching this video last night. I only got 1/3 of the way through it. It's several hours long, but it's about etymology. It's about the origin of words, and the words that we speak carry a totally different meaning. And so what it really comes down to is your intent. Are you speaking, what is your intent when you're saying things? Because that's what makes the difference. So I just thought that was very interesting, that it goes the same with this journey to real freedom for every individual that has to decide for themselves. You really have to have the intent that this is what you're going to do, and you have to be 100% or not.
Just to finish off here, so Gattaca was again, a way to kind of predictive programming movie for people to see what is in store for all of us here in the future, with even more control, to the point where, you know, the cameras everywhere, that even an eyelash is a giveaway to, like, something's not right here. We're not, something is out of order, out of place. That's how far they go with this movie and with what's coming, unless people wake up to something more and decide to, with their intent, to do something that's beyond, you know, what they've been shown here. And again, people are being programmed. Their imagination is being programmed or hijacked or used through the influence and other means, AI. So just, we have to all be alert. You have to pay attention. And fortunately, our group here is here for everybody to see their way out of this matrix here to something better for themselves. And I'll give it to Kevin to finish up too. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, it was like you were saying, you know, everything is based on cause and effect and agreements that make it so, and the controllers wish to hijack our free will, as it were, and have us create a reality that they want according to their design, but they can only manipulate us to agree. They, you know, because we are, as we're saying, we create our realities, and the overall reality is a result of what everybody agrees to overall. And so all the controllers can do is to convince us through marketing ploy or subliminal programming through the subconscious vehicle, through the television and the movies, to troll our agreements through where we place our attention and our focus. And as you were saying a little bit earlier about the science that they create, it's quite amusing, really, because if you think about it, I mean, everything is as it is according to what everybody has agreed it to be, and then all these characters come along and apply ideas of science that then explain it and also reinforce it. And I suppose in a way that would also lock people more so into whatever has been currently created and make it less able that people could create something different. I mean, I could imagine if science wasn't applied, which sort of almost solidifies people's idea of how things should be, because there is science that backs it up, that I would imagine a reality, simulated reality would be far more fluid and flexible, more like the imagination level, the ethereal level, where everything moves by imagination. But because everybody is so rigid with how they've been programmed and how they've been indoctrinated into seeing the world as the controllers have got everyone to agree it's to be, and then apply the science, it sort of locks it in place and makes it far more rigid. And so I can imagine if everyone were to become more aware, I would suspect that things would not be so rigid and things would literally move more by the imagination, and then science wouldn't really apply, because as I said, science is just really, they're just trying to explain what has been created through what people have agreed, and which has made it so. But yeah, so that's all I would finish on, I would say.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks. Any last words, Jeremy?
Sing the new you and wake up.
Okay, so let's sing the new you and show people what that's about here. The chickens are singing in here. Okay, this is a song to wake yourself up with. You sing it before bed or any time during the day, and it's your connection to what's real. New you. Jeremy?
New you.
Kevin?
You. And what's our movie for next week?
What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams. Okay, that's a real good one. There's a lot to that one. And yeah, it's be fun. What Dreams May Come.